Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. We are starting a new series today. It is going to be Westworld, and I'm excited for it. I've heard from numerous sources that it's a very good show and that I should just watch it to understand why it's so good. I know that Anthony Hopkins plays some sort of role in it. Not sure if he's a side character or a major character. And yeah, I assume it's a Western given the name of the show. But yeah, I'm excited to check it out. If you guys want to watch the full reaction, you can check out Patreon in the link in the description below. Otherwise, let's get started. Wong. That looks a little high tech to be a Western. Huh. This is trippy. Is this a Western where people are like created? Did it say J.J. Abrams? I think it did. I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to the... Okay, so... What? I thought this was like strictly a Western. But it seems... I don't know what to expect after that intro.
I'm in a dream.
That's right, Dolores. You're in a dream. Understand?
Don't go into the eye. Please don't go in... Ah!
First,
What the heck?
The disarray.
How many people are in the simulation, or is it just her? Huh.
what do you think of the guests?
You mean the newcomers?
The first time I
James Marsden?
came alone, went straight evil. It's the best 2 weeks of my life.
Went straight
I
evil.
like to remember what my father taught me.
Renegade.
That at one point or another, we were all new to this world.
Okay, so that guy basically came in and decided this time he wanted to play a character who was all evil. So they're all aware that this is fake, but that they're surrounded by other people in the same situation. But if you die in this world, what happens?
I never ceased to wonder at the thought that any day the course of my whole life could change with just one chance encounter.
Don't mind me. Just trying to look chivalrous. Did I see you home?
Well, that all depends. Can you keep up?
Well, I have to fetch my horse.
Get to it.
Catch him fast.
Go, go, go.
Father wouldn't let him roam this close to dark.
Oh no.
You got anything out here other than milk, old man?
But I'm more sure of the outcome than you son of a...
If you killed the old woman before any of us could have a turn. She's still warm enough. Nobody's gonna judge you for it.
Wow.
What if I told you that you were wrong? That there are no chance encounters?
Everything's scripted.
That you and everyone you know were built to gratify the desires of the people who pay to visit your world?
Huh.
Hello again.
What? Newcomers.
Come on, beautiful.
Whoa! Oh no.
Don't you touch her!
Wow. This is capitalism at its finest. And he's back.
Perfect is boring. I'm more interested in the bad guys.
This is trippy as heck. Oh, it's all run like this.
Give it a second, she'll do it again.
Her finger. That's not standard.
I noticed it last night. When looking in the update, it's a whole new class of gestures.
But if we didn't put it there, then who did?
Ford. He still reviews every update before we issue them. He must have slipped it in there without telling anyone. He calls
Ford. But they have to create them in real life to...
Excuse me.
I have so many questions. I'm sure though a lot of them will be answered. Huh.
We have a problem?
We have some unscheduled activity. Evidently one of your creatures is restless.
I'll take care of it myself.
I think you guys enjoy playing dress up as much as the guests. The hosts can't hurt you, by design. And the park hasn't had a critical failure in over 30 years.
Meaning we're overdue.
30 years they've been doing this.
It's one of my...
I know this place, actually. It's a different TV show. It's a set of a different TV show. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Stop. Unless you plan to decommission the boss.
Anthony Hopkins.
They don't make anything like they used to. Damn right. Men neither.
He seems, yeah, like he's malfunctioning. Too
I saw the
mechanical.
new gestures, the reveries. They're beautiful.
So he's Ford. He's just gonna zip himself up. Oh. This is so screwy. And here we go again. Does it get reset for everybody? Oh, he dropped his hat this time.
Son of a bitch, heck.
This guy, oh.
Have a pleasant evening.
I just happen to know a lot of actors from this show.
These hills somewhere. He's gonna put up one hell of a fight when we.
Malfunction.
Clearly, it's exhibiting some aberrant behavior.
Pretty fucking aberrant, Bernie.
Your brow, when you're angry but trying to control it, the fine muscles pull into a little arc.
No, Bernard, you may not record it.
Oh, there it is again.
A lot could go wrong, right? What happened? What could go wrong? They said they could hurt them if they overrode some things. He's just offline whenever he's not doing... What if they gain sentience? You never know. I mean, you don't know what's going to go on in the show like this, right?
You're one of them, aren't you? You're not real.
This is fascinating. They're programmed to just ignore when someone accuses them of being real. And what's a little boy doing in a place like this? Is it just like... for fun, I guess? I don't know. Huh. And I'm guessing there might not be a lot of historical accuracy in places like these sometimes. I mean, they can only put in what they know. This time, no one came
You
ashore.
waiting up for me, Daddy? Doesn't look like anything to me.
But where is she? Have you ever seen anything like this place?
His code can't decipher it. Someone brought in a picture? I thought this was like all a mental world.
Told you I didn't.
This guy just wants to... cause pain and suffering.
We've got a serious problem with one of the hosts.
Yeah, I'd say something's majorly wrong.
They're supposed to turn on each other, but only if a guest takes them on the High Sierra storyline, and Walter always buys it.
Well, I guess Walter got tired of buying it.
Whoa.
So our creatures have been misbehaving. You haven't yet isolated the bug.
It's the code you added, sir. The reveries. It has some,
Mistakes. But of course, we've managed to slip evolution's leash now, haven't we? Do you know what that means? It means that we're done. That this is as good as we're gonna get. It also means that you must indulge me the occasional mistake.
What the heck? Pails of blood. What the heck? No, no energy. He wants to jump. What a shot.
There's a deeper level to this game.
Huh.
You're gonna show me how to get there. Perhaps it's time to dig deeper into yours.
What the heck, man?
No. No. No.
He's twisted. But he's doing this to people who aren't real. Like, there's a question of morality here.
Morning, Daddy.
He's not... He's looking into the picture, and he didn't respond.
It You're not supposed to know. You should go. Leave.
Doctor won't be able to fix that. The heck? You're starting over now? What was that about?
Punched up the speech he gives after robbing the saloon. It's chilly. You'll see.
I can barely contain myself.
And they're just watching this all. Wow. Just out here murdering everybody.
All the banks and trains around here, and you fucking reprobates choose to rob us.
She's calm as heck. Wow, what the heck? Oh.
I gotta get back to...
Oof.
Well, let this be a lesson. The lesson is...
You dead. He did it! The rich guy got to be the hero.
Maybe you'll get to your speech next time.
Here.
How are you making me feel for
There's
these
a path
two
for
fake
everyone.
people?
My path is bound with yours.
More than you know. I feel like we're gearing up for a twist.
Until then, may you rest in a deep and dreamless slumber.
Wow. A distant dream. So
Two more over here.
it's still inside them though, right? In that
got 'em
case? People can physically enter that world too, it seems.
That's all of them.
I have so many questions.
We bring her back online. Is there anything odd about that picture?
No, nothing at all.
We've run a full diagnostic, but the results are, well...
This acting, what the heck?
When we are born, we cry. I have to warn her. Warn who? Dolores. The things they do to her. The things you do to her. I have to protect her.
Wow.
I have to help her. She's got to get help.
He's warning her about this whole system.
Accept. I shall have such revenges on you.
Oh.
You don't know where you are, do you?
This feels like it's been hacked. Or...
How was that?
I don't know. He's off script. We didn't program any of those behaviors.
hacked or gained sentience.
In Abernathy for 10 years. He was sheriff for a while before then, and before that...
The professor.
These are fragments of prior builds. The reveries must be allowing him to access them.
No cause for alarm, Bernard. Simply our old work coming back to haunt us.
Never thought they'd... Okay. Interesting.
He said, these violent delights have violent ends.
you ever lied to us?
No.
Was that a lie?
Last question, Dolores. Have you ever hurt a living thing?
No.
Huh.
Of course not.
Oh boy.
Been repaired so many times, she's practically brand new. Don't let that fool you. She's the oldest host in the park.
Wow.
Morning, Daddy. You sleep well?
Oh, well enough.
Different actor.
I choose to see the beauty.
Decommissioned. What does it mean to be decommissioned? Oh, they're stored. These are all... What's these whispers? Tell me what they're saying. On this floor, these are all decommissioned. Okay. I thought this is where they're storing them. And he's here again.
To believe there is an order to our days.
Was he just feeling his wound?
A purpose.
Oh, I don't know.
I know things will work out the way they're meant to.
What the fuck? Oh, this is interesting. Okay, before we get into unwrapping this episode, I want you all to give a very warm welcome to the animated heroine who edited this footage in this video. I'm going to include a link to her channel down in the description below and in the comments. She has some really interesting and well thought out videos on her channel. I started watching her content there and it's great, so check it out. And yeah, for this episode, I don't think this is what I was expecting from this show. Westworld, I thought the whole show was like a Western. Turns out it's like a Western theme park for rich people to get a thrill. Obviously, I had a ton of questions right off the bat. I wasn't sure what the rules were, etc. And I think the show uses that to its advantage at first. Like, at first I thought Teddy might have actually shot real guests who had killed Dolores' parents. But it soon became clear that it was just part of the script when Ed Harris's character shows up and can't be killed. At first I was like, is he hacking the game? But no, like, all hosts are given that advantage that they can't be harmed by the hosts. So I think I mostly have a firm grasp on things with just a few questions, as far as the first episode goes at least. So the guests come into this world. This is the part I'm a little unsure about though. The guests come into this world, I assumed it was via like virtual reality, and yet when the host was going crazy, drinking milk leaking out of his stomach, the team running Westworld came into the simulation to bring him out. So part of that supports the idea that everything plays out in a real space as well. But then on the other hand, when guests are shot, nothing happens to them, implying again a virtual world. Or maybe it's like blanks and only looks like it hurts people. But then we saw an effect on the Ed Harris's character when Teddy shot him. There were like practical effects. So I don't know. If it was a virtual world, there'd be no need to create actual physical models of them in the real world too, right? And yet when they were questioning Dolores at the beginning, they termed what she was experiencing as dreaming, and then her father finds that picture, I'm guessing that a guest brought. So this is all this entire thing, this dynamic, whether it's virtual reality or I feel like that's not fully answered in the first episode. But yeah, that picture sent him in a bit of a meltdown. Dolores says it doesn't look like anything to her. Repeats that several times because that's clearly what she's scripted to do. She's not programmed to deviate too much from her set responses. But yeah, it was clearly not something from their world. Yeah, it's interesting. That's the main question I have. Where does this all take place? I know there's a sub-basement where there's at least 83 or 84 floors, because that one's used for storage for decommissioned hosts. But yeah, not entirely sure about that yet. I loved the voiceover at the beginning of this episode. I think it was Bernie asking Dolores questions while we were inside Westworld. Do you ever feel inconsistencies in your world or repetitions? And Dolores says that all lives have routine, mine's no different. Still, I never cease to wonder the thought that any day the course of my entire life could change with just one chance encounter. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. And there was the last question he was asking her, like, what if I told you you were wrong? There are no chance encounters, that you and everyone you know were built to gratify the desires of the people who pay to visit your world. And he asked if it would change the way she sees the newcomers, and she says no. Of course not. We all love the newcomers. Every new person I meet reminds me of how lucky I am to be alive and how beautiful this world can be. And that's said as Teddy gets shot and gets dragged she gets dragged into the barn by Ed Harris's character. We don't get a name for him, right? So yeah, it was just really jarring. It's very clear that there's no sentience going on, otherwise she wouldn't be able to answer in that way. And then there's also that moment earlier when she shows Teddy the Judas steer. It was like a flock of animals, and you lead one and the others follow. So the Judas steer leads all of them. That has to be a metaphor for the hosts, right? If not now, then at some point, like the idea that there will be one host that is leading them all in a particular direction. Is she, as the oldest host, the Judas steer, or is it someone else? Is it the father that was decommissioned? It'll be interesting to see. And so, as is the case with any work of fiction featuring androids, the first thing you obviously suspect is that they'll gain sentience at some point. I think it's even possible that a host already has gained sentience, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll get to that. But with the Reveries update, they can tap into some of their past experiences. They can tap into things that they were programmed for before, and that could be the start to something much, much bigger. So Ford was the one who implemented it, and was talking to Dolores' father, Peter, and found out that he was warning her of the true nature of Westworld and to help her seek revenge on the people that have hurt her. And if the Reveries update continues to unravel not just past things they were programmed to do, but like actual events that happened to them, I mean, that could be just like an overload of trauma. I mean, like Ed Harris's character, he took her into that barn and assaulted her. And he might not be the first, but he says he's been here for 30 years, or he's been coming for 30 years, which we learn is how long this thing has been going on. So this definitely wasn't the first time he assaulted her. So if she somehow gains memory of all of that, that could be really bad. If all of these hosts gain sentience and remember all of these events, like what is the psychological damage from that? What is it like to remember things from before you gain sentience? Do you have an emotional connection to that? It's a lot of questions that we might not have real answers to, but we might have some really interesting answers to in this fictional world. And yeah, would the host's quests for vengeance against those who have wronged them be righteous? Because her father was saying that I will visit revenges on you. And like the people who hurt them and killed them and assaulted them didn't know they were hurting actual beings who could think or feel. And at the time they couldn't think or feel. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if this all unfolds. It's also very possible that we don't go into this land where they gain sentience at all. That would be very interesting too, because it's what everybody's expecting, I think, at this point. And I'm very curious how unintentional the side effects of the Reveries update were. Ford seems a bit like the unhinged type, and he doesn't brief his workers on changes he's about to make. He has that much power over everything. So Bernie only realized it by accident, or by chance rather. So maybe Ford was curious what would happen if hosts had access to previous iterations. I mean, we had Lee Sizemore, is that his name? Theorizing to Teresa that there's something bigger going down. Could this all be an experiment? Could the Reveries update be an experiment intended to create sentience in androids? Because Ford did say that evolution forced the entirety of sentient life on this planet using one tool, mistake. So this mistake is a path to sentience, is essentially what he's hinting at, right? The show is hinting at it so strongly that I can't imagine it won't go down that path. And he also says that they have their technology capable of curing any disease, keeping even the weakest alive, maybe even one day reviving the dead. So they're clearly, I don't know when this takes place exactly, since the facility seems to be very far divorced from the rest of society, but it could be much later in the future. Based on their technology, it's just very far beyond what we have now. Lee Sizemore also feels like he's going to be a wild card on the show, since I mentioned him trying to make a play for power with Teresa, but Teresa feels like doesn't have a firm grasp on what is going on exactly, so he's not that big a threat, but I feel like he's still a wild card. But yeah, back to the story. Bernie said that the referees are the little things that make people seem real and what makes people fall in love with them, which makes me think just how capitalistic this all is. Like, they're creating this place as an escape, and their goal is to make one of their goals, or one of the ways they continue to profit, is making the world so enticing that rich folk get addicted to it, fall in love with the people in it, and want to visit all the time. And then that woman that, I don't know if it's an assistant or some other scientist, she clearly wasn't holding a role as high as Sizemore, Bernie, or Teresa, but she actually kissed the android just to test it out, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, very interesting. Bernie is an interesting character too, though, played by Jeffrey Wright. I actually saw him play something for my first time seeing the actor was actually just a few weeks ago, in the Bond film Casino Royale. But he notices Teresa's brow furrow when she's angry and wants to model that expression for the hosts, and of course she says no, like, really indignantly. But yeah, we visit the cold storage area where they put, I'm guessing, decommissioned hosts. And actually the shooting location for that is the same place that Hive met Lash in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3, I think. And interestingly enough, these two shows share a lot of common themes. There's an arc in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where people are put into alternate worlds in their minds. And they also have life model decoys on the show, basically robot androids who look and think and act like real people. So yeah, interesting parallels. I'm curious if maybe... Actually, I'm not sure which came first, the Westworld or those seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sure whichever came first influenced the other. I'm guessing Westworld came first for sure. But yeah, if the hosts do gain sentience, though, will it happen all at once or one at a time? Seems like a bit of a nightmare if all of them in storage just come to at once. Or maybe will Dolores be the first one? Or I theorize that it's possible the father already gained sentience. It seems like the case at the very least. We see Ford talking to that one host who winds up zipping himself up in that body bag, so that's really creepy. But yeah, that scene, the guy was so mechanical, and Ford comments on how a handshake would give him away. And so he's been paying attention to these kinds of things and trying to figure out how to make things more and more realistic and pass for real humans. So it's impossible. Like I mentioned in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they had life model decoys that were impossible, indistinguishable from the real thing. But with no one having any oversight over Ford, he could do a lot to mess with the system. There could be hosts as employees working at his company. Like, I could see endless ways where there are twists on this in this show. But it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But it also brings to mind the topic of morality in this world. And to Ed Harris's character, I mean, he's torturing people, killing people, raping people. How much do we blame him for these actions, given that the victims are androids? And if no one is truly suffering, does that make it okay? Or does the fact that he's doing this at all speak to a dark disposition? If you're capable of doing that, doing these things in Westworld, are you capable of doing them in the real world? I mean, Westworld is essentially a virtual reality video game, and there are video games out there that let you go like Paragon or Renegade, essentially, like good guy or bad guy. Those are the terms in the Mass Effect series, Paragon or Renegade. Paragon being good, Renegade being bad. I only played the first game in that series, but I saw a recent article, somewhere the developers said that people overwhelmingly chose to play the game as nice, upstanding citizens, aka Paragon. It was something like 92%. So the question is, are the 8% who are Renegade for life predisposed to certain ways of thinking or certain behaviors. And I suppose Ed Harris's character will be an interesting fictional case study for that. And we also heard at the very start that one guy riding the train in say that last time I came in and I went straight evil. So it's interesting how people will act if there are no consequences. In video games, the thing is, a lot of the time when you're playing narrative-based games, it does feel like there are consequences. But in Westworld, something that's very big is that your consequences don't last very long at all. It seems like everything resets pretty quickly. I'm not even sure if we last beyond a day in any of them. I'm not sure we saw anything last more than a day. So it's possible that, yeah, it's that lack of feeling like there are consequences that will last into the future makes people do things and act differently. Yeah, like in video games, you're playing this super long campaign. You don't want to ruin relationship with a single character sometimes. But here in the Westworld, if someone pisses you off, you can shoot them in the head and you'll see them again tomorrow. But yeah. Theoretically, there might be some longer storylines and quests that need to be told, so maybe it does last more than a day, but we don't have that information yet, I think. But yeah, after Ed Harris scalps that guy, he brings it with him. We see some sort of pattern underneath it. It looks like a maze. Curious what that could be about. So he's here to try to find the truth. He's trying to find the deeper meaning. And I don't know if that's the same thing as what Teresa and Sizemore were talking about, that the investors, the people, the clients, the people, they all have different goals. My first thought was maybe he's doing this as corporate espionage. Maybe he's working for a copycat organization and wants to steal proprietary information. Maybe some other company out there making Space World or other worlds. That would be interesting. And then there's this whole story with Hector Escaton that I haven't even gotten to yet. Him coming into the brothel, Maeve, I think that's her name, being completely calm and cool about it. Hector feels like a very intimidating villain. The way he was written was really, really interesting. But yeah, I love how the guest just shot him in the back of the head and it was over. I really wanted to see the rest of that scenario play out, especially with how proud Sizemore was of the speech that he wrote. But yeah, it was really, really fun to watch that. Teddy gets shot in the crossfire though, and Dolores was so distraught. I'm impressed that this show was able to make me feel bad for androids programmed to show feelings, who I know are just going to be rebooted soon anyway. Really speaks to how screwy this show is, because so far they don't have sentience. They're just androids, and yet I'm feeling for them. I guess one more question I do have is, if they do gain sentience, if Dolores does gain sentience, will she still be in love with Teddy? Or will it be different because she has free will? I have one answer to that, one example of that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where I get an answer to that. But yeah, I won't spoil that for those of you who haven't seen it. It's actually one of my favorite arcs of television ever. So if you haven't seen that show, it's great. And I'm curious if they do gain sentience, will the staff of Westworld be able to turn them off at that point? That woman I mentioned before who kissed that android in the real world, still didn't get her name. She said, "Soon this will all feel like a distant dream. Until then, may you rest in a deep and dreamless slumber." And those were the key words to turn Dolores off. Curious if that works for everybody, or if it's, yeah, it'll be interesting to find out more. Another big question I have is, where are the real people while their avatars are in Westworld, if it is a virtual reality thing? And do you have to be yourself when you go in? Can you create your own character? I feel like that might be a little too trippy and difficult to follow on a show like this if we have people in Westworld, but then when we meet them in the real world, they're acted by someone else. But who knows? It'll be interesting to see. The ending was very chilling. So before, we've seen Dolores being questioned at the start of the episode. She's completely still, fly lands on her face, and she crawls into her eye, which made me cringe and wince. But she doesn't move at all. And then when Teddy shows some people around, they're often somewhere, and he's sitting outside while they're doing whatever, and a fly lands on him too, and he doesn't do anything either. And yet, at the end of the episode, or before the end of the episode, there's the sheriff. A fly lands on him, and it seems like he wants, like, it makes him bug out. And it has something to do with the Reveries update. It has to be. And then Dolores, on the other hand, at the very end of the episode, fly lands on her neck and smack. That seems like it's a big transition from the first time we see her to Teddy not reacting to the sheriff bugging out. So yeah, speaks to how things are evolving. It feels like. Yeah, this episode is really, really cool. The music in the show is great. I gotta go back and find the soundtrack when all is said and done, when I finish reacting to everything. The actors and actresses are amazing. Evan Rachel Wood, I haven't seen her in anything before, but she was spectacular. James Marsden is super charming. Much more charming than in those X-Men films, because you can actually see his eyes here, and it's not completely covered because he's Cyclops. Ed Harris is menacing as heck. Anthony Hopkins was really good as well, though I have to say I think the best performance was given by Dolores' father. Like him like freaking out and talking to Dolores, hell is empty and all the devils are here. I don't know how he acted so mechanical at the same time, just like flashes of what this is supposed to be human like. Like that scene opposite Anthony Hopkins, he more than held his own. And we learned some terminology in that scene. Ford asked him what his drives were. And yeah, the father says he has to warn Dolores. So this is the host, I think, might have gained sentience already. Like, that would actually make some sort of sense in some places. Otherwise, why would he care, even in diagnostic mode, about protecting Dolores? Like, the things, he mentioned the things they do to her, the things you do to her, speaking to Ford, saying he has to protect her. But then again, Ford said, like, very good, that's enough, and he shut off. Simple as that. So I feel like there's a spark there, but it's not completely there yet. But yeah, Ford also asked him what his itinerary was to meet my maker. Oh, spectacular writing in this. By most mechanical and dirty hand, I shall have such revenges on you both. So I don't know who the both is referring to. I'm guessing it feels like Ford had a partner before. I don't know if they mentioned that. I might have missed it. But on the revenges, what they are, he doesn't know yet. But they will be the terrors of the earth. And he says, you don't know where you are, do you? You're in a prison of your own sins. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Definitely want to learn more about this. And then we find out that Dolores wound up telling us what he whispered to her. Those violent delights have violent ends. That's very curious. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more in the future episodes. And I think one more thing I'm looking forward to is seeing guests perhaps interact with other guests. Because outside of the ones that they came into the world with, we don't see them really interact at all. Maybe the price point is super high, or there's a server limit or something. But yeah, very curious, and definitely want to watch more. So some shows I do give scores to, and some I haven't. I feel like I will for this one. Very, very solid. I want to leave some room so that I can actually make the score go up. But it's hard to give this anything lower than a 9. Just kind of like, there's so many interesting things about this show, just this episode, and I'm definitely looking forward to more. If you guys want to watch the full reaction, or you want to check out reactions a week early, you can check out Patreon in the link in the description below. Otherwise, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Check out The Animated Heroine. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, friends.